Make sure you get Eevee's passive, particularly Glaceon, out before committing to a full engage, unless you know that you can one-shot it throughout all this. I'll be telling you that the amount of times Glaceon's escape on 1 health because of the damage reduced during the invincibility is really fatal, and it really can cost the game. I'm sure many of you are wondering why the Eevees are so good. I'm going to give you a short breakdown, explain why they're probably some of the sneakiest and most powerful Pokemon in Unite right now, and maybe some few tips about how to play them and how you should deal with them. So stay tuned, wrap it up, and get ready for today's video, which is going to be talking about why are we in the Eevee meta and how to beat the Eevees. So of course, if you're interested in the topics, smash the like button, absolutely destroy it. It means the world to me. Sub to the channel so you get updated on the latest and greatest from myself. And of course, make sure you have the notis on. And leave a comment down below telling me how cringy I am for doing this every video and no one ever likes the video. Okay, of course, let's get started. And today, of course, we're talking about the 3 Apocalypse Horsemen. Basically, that's what they are, right? You have Umbreon, the goats. You have Glaceon, where are you, little creature? Glaceon, and then we have, of course, other thing, Leafeon. The 3 of these are probably the S tier Eevees, and now maybe even Sylveon moving up there, so I'll just put a little Sylveon there. And then, of course, the bottom of the Eevee tier list is Espeon, which is a bit depressing, because Espeon, for a good portion of 2023, was incredibly overpowered and really held the reins in the competitive meta. It even outshone Mew, which is insane to think about. Mew's been a staple of the game since it's been released, basically. And yeah, this was so broken. So now we have Umbreon, which was the latest Eevee release. Leafeon, which is continually getting buffed and changed and whatever. It just keeps getting the better end of the stick. And Glaceon, which has consistently been really good. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how they play, what they want to do in the game, and more importantly, how to beat them. So as we get into it, let's just go and scratch this. You need to know how to deal, what they do, okay? All the Eevees are level 4 evolutions. And when you're a level 4 evolution, it means that you don't need a lot of early game investment. You're going to be able to get into the game very quickly. You're going to be able to do a lot of impact very quickly. Now, of course, it's measured. Now, Glaceon isn't going to one-hit you level 4, whereas Leafeon probably will. And Umbreon is just going to chain stun you, which is, of course, the Slowbro ult in a box, a ridiculous ability. But we'll get to those characters in a second. Well, firstly, we're going to describe the overall premise. These are early game characters, with some having a little bit more of an impact in the later game. The main idea is that you can deny it and keep them in the Eevee form, and they're significantly weaker. If you can keep them in Eevee forms, they will be a lot weaker. And to the Eevee players, you need to get out of these Eevee forms as fast as you can. Now, a few of them stack, some of them don't. They all have a variety of different playstyles, but at the end of the day, all the Eevees are a bit squishy and have some sort of passive with their evolution. So I'm just going to explain this part really the easiest, because Umbreon has this, which is a shield that stops it getting hindrance and also increases its resistance once it's broken. Leafeon does not have a passive like this, it just has the movement speed thing, which is still kind of crazy. Glaceon probably has the most obnoxious Eevee passive, which is it goes invisible if targeted by any sort of hindrance, anything that slows it, anything, right? Targeted, it goes invincible for a second as well, and then it reappears. This is probably the most broken Eevee passive, and you need to be most aware of this. You can proc this with from red buff to anything with range damage and a little bit of a slow. Make sure you get Eevee's passive, particularly Glaceon, out before committing to a full engage, unless you know that you can one-shot it throughout all this. I'll be telling you that the amount of times Glaceon's escape on 1 health because of the damage reduced during the invincibility is really fatal, and it really can cost the game. So keep that in mind. Now, Leafeon is the most aggressive of the 3 horsemen of the Apocalypse. So let's just get rid of the other 2 and let's talk a little bit about Leafeon. What does Leafeon do? So Leafeon's gameplay, whether it goes into the jungle, bot lane, or top lane, is going to be going and focusing around using Solar Blade to get ahead of the opponent by having pretty much the strongest secure in the game instantaneously. There's no charging speed, no nothing. Now, you do have to charge it, but when your chlorophyll passive, which is a little gauge, it's filled up, it's going to go instantly, and it takes about half a second after it's filled to go, but it is absolutely busted, and you're not going to have a chance of contesting that empowered Solar Beam. So even in top, bot, and jungle, you need to make sure, okay, once this Eevee hits level 4, it's just time to, be clever about how you do your minions. A suggestion for Eevee players is, yes, put the pressure in the game. Feel free to auto-attack things into your range. Don't let them have a chance, It's about pressure, it's about being fast, it's about being smart. take control of the situation you're in as the Eevee, and when you do that, you're going to do great. Now, if you're on the opposing team, it goes a bit differently. You need to make sure that you wrestle the control from this character. It will beat you if you let it. So you need to start thinking about, oh, okay, maybe I can pull this one, pretend I'm doing it, and then jump up to my back one. Because the worst common situation is that when the Eevee in the lane gets this one into this one, into this one, and then it's GG. Like, you don't want them to take your entire thing, rotate back here, zero pressure, and then they just smack you for half your health. And the same thing happens in bot lane. Bot laners, be aware, you can pull these things, you can stun the Eevee. There's many ways of tackling on the Leafeon. It is frustrating, but if you be clever about it, it's not as bad as it could be. It is one of the worst matchups in the game. So this one is just a lane dominator, right? And basically the way it plays is it gets this level 4, then it looks for level 6, which it has like the little spin blade, leaf blade. That is absolutely busted. You gotta be careful about eject spin blade plays, and you as an Eevee player, you should also be thinking about doing this play. Basically, you charge Leaf Blade. I might get a B-roll in here, but you charge Leaf Blade, you eject during the Leaf Blade, and you'll get the passives for hitting the people. You can also redirect it during the spins. You get your passive out mark, and then boom, down with a hammer, and then you one-shot their whole team. Ultimate, pretty simple. It's the lock-on ultimate, the Emerald 2-step. You jump in air, target someone, do damage, and then you land and you do damage based on the proximity to your ultimate. Insane move. Now that we covered the basics of Leafeon, I guess we're going to go to the cringest of them all. I don't even know, honestly. Like, look, put down in the comments which one is the one you hate playing against most. Glaceon. So Glaceon, its idea is generally going to be either jungling or bot laning. It's not really going to be playing in the top lane. I've seen some people do this. Just don't do it. I don't think it's a good idea. This is the late game Eevee out of the three that I've mentioned. This is the Eevee that will pose the biggest threat once they're level 8, level 9. And you need to be super aware and hyper aware of keeping its levels 1 down, and you need to be hyper aware of actually shutting it down during fights. If you're just letting Eevee lock onto your species, you're going to lose the game. If you're letting Eevee lock onto your tanks, you're not going to do that badly. And if you're letting Eevee lock onto your attackers, you're going to lose the game. The tanks need to tank the Eevee blows, and more importantly, you need to be playing with the tanks. If you play solo 1v1s against this thing, it will shred you, it will kill you, it will kite you. Trust me, I've seen it. And because this character takes away a lot of the mechanical inputs in the game, maybe, okay, you have to count your spears and stuff, but when you are mastering this character, which doesn't take like an enormous amount of time, the problem being is that the player can focus solely on what is happening in the game. So they're playing Eevee on autoplay, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I need to think about like, dodging this ability and everything. You're thinking at the micro. This Eevee is already thought out. Okay, well, so your player is going to come in from the left. I'm going to jump down. They're going to come in, try to gank me. I'm going to press ult. I also know that I want to be top lane in 30 seconds. I'm going to take this farm. And then you just sort of see how you're not even playing the same game. You're playing checkers and they're playing chess. It's because they've dumbed it down, right? Like, it's no better way to say it. It's very easy to play this Pokemon to a high level. And when you can think about the other sections of the game, and it becomes a misery to play against. It's one of the best ping characters. If you're going to play on ping, just draft the Glaceon. It's a very powerful Pokemon. So let's speak a little bit about jungle. Maybe do a jungle clear, run top. It's going to be level 5. It might be split jungle, which might be like a level 4 here and then level 4 there. And then when this occurs, what you're going to see is Icicle Spear come into the mix. The main thing you want to know about this is blockable. You need to make sure you hold your distance. One person can sacrifice themselves in front of another, and it's important to know who to sacrifice. Don't sacrifice tank HP if it's only like a small amount. Sacrifice tank HP if you see like 15 spears coming for your half health Mew. Yes, you need to tank that, and that's okay. And you can play around it. You can play with that in mind, but you can't just go and 1v1 duel this thing when it has 8 stacks. It's gonna Icicle Spear you, run away. Like, I mean, it's just a nightmare. Like, you're not going to be able to play against it. So you need to respect this Pokemon's range. It's got a good range and radius, and it's got a good ability to kite backwards while using damage. So you need to acknowledge, okay, if I go in and I fail, it's like a boxing match. I don't know if you've ever heard this analogy, but 2 people line up in the ring, and one has shorter hands than the other. Like, if I go to punch someone in the head and they have longer hand, I have to get in first. I have to pass the first few punches, and then I can unleash. Right, but the problem with playing against Eevee is that it takes a step back and still punches you. And then you can sort of see your errors, right? Like, when you go in, escaping is you gotta go in and go in. It's gotta be done. It's gotta be finished. Like, you know, you gotta all in this thing. Because if you try to run away after failing to kill it, you almost certainly die. And that's something that I see a lot of players not calculate. Like Dodrio in particular is one of the really struggles. You miss an ability or something, you're sort of left there looking around going, hey, look, like ostrich family, please take me, like remove me from the planet. And as this small blue dog targets you with like a bunch of ice from the air, you're going to get one hit. So adjusting your approach to taking down Glaceon is definitely something you can do to improve your gameplay against it. And if you're a Glaceon player, remember, yes, you can play back. You don't need to run into them with the spears. Go, chillax, you know, set up the Coco Cabana beach resort, you know, put up the tent, everything. And I'm just gonna sit back and let the game play for me because you were 2 steps ahead, continue being 2 steps ahead. You have incredible Rip. This Pokemon, as we were talking about before, has percentage damage on the Icicle Spears, and you have a huge attack speed boost on the Ice Shot, on the Ice Buff, whatever. So the way you want to tackle that is you want to look at these objectives like, yeah, I'm looking to do the primary damage, I'm looking to pull the enemy team in, and then I'm looking to punish them for looking at me. So when you start breaking it down like that, yes, the Eevee meta, you can see where the problem starts to lie when you add the trifecta. And now, I guess we're going to talk about the trifecta and the leader of the Eevees, I like to call. I think because this is the Eevee that probably brought all the others into play. I think this is the Eevee with the most amount of power right now. It is the God. It is Arceus incarnated. It is Umbreon. Umbreon is single-handedly Slowbro's Unite move every 3 seconds. To have Mean Look be so indispensable, and like, you know, of course, still see players misuse it. Let's just go and clear it up. Like, it's quite simple. This Pokemon is nuts. Mean Look, people running at you. Mean Look, people running away. Don't run. You don't need to deal damage during the Mean Look. You can keep them trapped and move. You can keep track of cooldowns. You can Snarl when they go in and then Mean Look when they go out. Look, it's all about being disruptive when you play the Umbreon. And when you play against it, it's all about, you know, really ignoring this character. You need to be so clear-minded, like going, okay, Mean Look's gonna happen, I have to cleanse. When the cleanse happens, I have to dodge Snarl. When that happens, I have to dodge Unite move. And then I just play the fight and completely ignore this character. If you play to focus Umbreon, you are going to get the shorter end of the stick. Someone's going to get trapped. They're going to nuke you. The triple Eevees, they will nuke you out of existence. They will drop it on you and boom, like you have no hope. So I want you to think very clearly about how this Eevee plays. Now, of course, the lane phase is pretty standard. It's a bit weaker in the start. Its early Eevee evolution isn't that powerful. It can be beaten, it can be taken down, it can take time to scale. And when it falls behind in levels, it's not going to be as impactful as not. But Mean Look is a crazy ability, and you need to be very, very aware of what it does. It will trap you for 3 seconds if you're hit. It will give it a damage buff. And in addition, the area that you're trapped in, there's like no way you can get out of it. Fail flashes, fail dodging moves, everything that you do with mobility when you're being Mean Looked already, it's honestly just wait for the Mean Looked to really apply, because you're going to get stuck and then not have anything. The best counterplay I find to it is to try to lure them into the box, and then, you know, you like, at least you're gonna box them, you know, it's that same idea. Well, at least we're gonna trade blows, because if they're very clever, they box you, they get a teammate, they just poke you down. And they break you slowly over a game. It's a very frustrating to play against this Pokemon. You have to remember that the Unite move does take away shields. You have big shielding Pokemons like Crustle and Wigglytuff and even Mimikyu. Its Unite move can be completely gone from one interaction with Umbreon. These Pokemon really suffer. Umbreon is the killer of speedsters. It is the defender of attackers. It is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game, and you don't respect it, you're gonna get twisted, you're gonna get folded, you're gonna get kicked into outer space. This Pokemon is incredibly powerful. Now, some of the ways I like to deal with it, as I said, is, you know, baiting it into the Mean Looks, sort of playing away from it, and then moving into it in like a weird angle. So there's a sort of like peer off my team. Like, it's always about creating opportunities. Like, let's just say we'll draw up a situation, right? So like there'll be some sort of team fight in middle, and maybe your team is coming from this direction. I like to try float around here, and then maybe like loop around here. And I always stay a little bit out of range, because the moment you can see this Pokemon's weakness, right? It's its range, the inherent range problem this Pokemon has. It has no poke, it has no like sort of gap closing ability when it doesn't take foul play. So be inherently teasing the range. Be out of it, you know, hello, a little pat on the head, hello, a little pat on the head. That's how you deal with this Pokemon. annoy it into frustration, into the suicide. Because this is the thing they don't tell you about the Eevee players, is a lot of the time people can get frustrated when they're getting poked down with no sort of way to catch up. So they just go and like say, screw it, I'm going. And when you say screw it, I'm going, that's into your favor. That's always into your favor. You just need to see it the right way. You just need to be able to maintain a cool head. The player with the coolest head wins, and when you can do that, you're going to win more games. So of course, as always, I'm just saying, you know, look at it with a cool, like easy mind. Peer around it, you know. This is a Pokemon that just came off the LG tournament with a 72% win rate. You have to understand that if you've let Eevee Umbreon through the draft, or if you're playing against it, the odds are against you. You need to attack it interestingly, you need to get ahead early, you need to shut down the carries, because with this thing, gets ahead with a carry, it's almost impossible to stop. Now that we just sort of like, I guess, talked about the trifecta of Eevees, let's talk a little bit about Sylveon coming back into the mix, thanks to all these buffs. You're going to see Sylveon in the top, into attacker and into jungle. It is similar to Leafeon in that sense. It has a very obnoxious level 4. Players like Lutano, I don't know if you know about him, but he's going to do some level 4 mystical fire gank. Keep this in mind. This is something that you might see in your games. If you see the Sylveon not in any lane and it's in a jungle, 9:30, yeah, okay, maybe it's not my go time. Be cautious, be safe. The worst thing you can do to the Eevees is let them snowball. When you let these creatures build up a snowball at the top of Mount Everest and then launch it down at you, cackling in their like little cute forms, they are going to destroy you. You are going to get rolled. And when you take a different approach about this, you're going to have a better game. So yes, all right, thinking about Mystical Fire. Yeah, if you see the Mystical Fire move, you know, even open your menu to check what move they've taken. You see Mystical Fire? Okay, it's time to back off. I'm going to chillax. I'm going to go run back to the pad, and I'm going to go and have a slower game because I know that they're going to fall off. Mystical Fire works really well against special attacker Pokemon. So of course, if you were running Sylveon, as special attackers, Mystical Fire doesn't seem that bad anymore. And more importantly, Hyper Voice, huge shred, really good pairing with special attackers, really powerful at the start of the game. Don't make sure, especially for top laners, if you're getting ganked by it or if you're playing against it, don't just walk into the thing. You are going to have, if they are good, they have incense, and they're going to shred you for HP, and there's going to be no way for you to get it back. And it's very frustrating to play against. So keep an open mind, you know, attack it slowly, bit by bit, because that's how you're going to go and break down enemy teams with the Eevees. And it's also how you're going to break down teams that they have the Eevees on as well. So these are just some things to keep in mind and some general tips when dealing with some of the most obnoxious and powerful Pokemon in the game right now. Now, I think, of course, as always, it always comes down to good coordination and being able to like land a nail in the head of your idea before and after the game. So if you're not like understanding the full end goal of Pokemon Unite, you know, of course, watch my videos. You're going to learn more. You're going to get closer and closer to the idea and the true enlightenment that comes with, you know, understanding someone else's perspective, because you're going to get to not only build off my perspective, but your own as you play games. That's something that I think is very underrated. Like, of course, I'm not like going to be the world's best player, nor am I, you know, the world's smartest tactician, but I do believe I have some secret knowledge for you to have and, you know, imbue yourself with, so you can combine that with what you know and then go and push the ranks even further ahead. There'll be a master guide video somewhat soon if you haven't hit master already, or if you're aiming for master, so I'm really excited to launch that one out. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed my take on, you know, how we can look at the Eevees, what they do, like understanding them, and then actually like looking at how to beat them as well. And, you know, some tips for Eevee players if you're playing them as well. Because, hey, look, like at the end of the day, we're all out here to get those juicy gains, and you don't get juicy gains without playing good Pokemon. So, of course, as always, if you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, sub to the channel, and of course, leave a comment down below about what you think about these little bloody Eevees. Alright, guys, I hope you had a great time. See you later. I'll see you later today.